Hey, true seekers, welcome back. Zach here. In this video, I want to talk about 3 good reasons to incorporate more vegetables in your diet. And if possible, become a vegetarian, or better yet, a vegan. So, we human beings, we're omnivores. We can eat vegetables, we can eat animal proteins from meat to dairy to eggs. Some species on this planet, they're one or the other. They're herbivores, they only eat vegetables, or they're carnivores, they only eat animal proteins. We humans, we have the ability to eat both. But what a lot of people don't realize is the human digestive system is pretty much the same as a herbivore's, which is very different from a carnivore's. So we humans, our bodies are built like the other living animals that eat vegetables. And not by coincidence, not by chance, it has been known within humanity for at least a century and really longer than that. But there is documented scientific evidence going back more than a century showing that humans who live off plant based diets, meaning fruits, vegetable, nuts, legumes, people that live on these diets, they live longer, healthier, less disease, less illness. Overwhelmingly. Indisputable. So let's talk about vegetables. I'm going to teach you something quick about the word vegetable just within the English language. And on top of that, we're going to watch this video, which took the best of the film Forks Over Knives, a film about the benefits of the vegetarian and vegan diet. Very real health benefits for all for eating more vegetables and less meat and dairy, especially dairy. So, this is a documentary, Forks Over Knives. This film has taken the best of it and compacted it into 12 minutes. We'll watch that. Then we'll take a brief break. And if you're daring, we'll also watch this final film of animal slaughterhouses, what factory farms look like nationwide. Every year, hundreds of millions of animals, billions of animals truly, every year just in the United States alone are slaughtered for food consumption. Chickens, pigs, cows, largely in the United States, but there are other animals. There's ducks, geese, things such as foie gras. If you don't know what foie gras is, very brutal process for animals. Anyhow, we'll watch this film. I think it's important that all people who eat this, commercialized meat that you get conveniently wrapped at the grocery store, I think it's important that people see what goes on behind the packaging and marketplace convenience. To kill billions of animals a year for food, it's a nonstop conveyor belt of animal slaughter nationwide, around the clock. And when you start to think about it, it's pretty gross. I mean, imagine just doing that for a living, just killing animal after animal on a line that you can hardly keep up with. That's your job. Imagine going home and just what kind of energy do you bring out into your community? You know what I mean? So here are the 3 reasons, and I'll get off this image because it's gross. Here are the 3 reasons to eat more vegetables and less meat and dairy products. One, it has tremendous health benefits and quality of life benefits. When you eat fruits and vegetables, you'll find that you have more energy. You feel better. You stay healthier. Your joints don't hurt as bad. Your digestive process is better. You're not all backed up and gassy and bloated. You know? That's a primary reason. A second reason is by eating vegetarian, you're doing something very positive for the world. If you look at the imprint that diets leave, what I mean by this is imagine somebody who only eats fruits and vegetables all year versus somebody who eats a typical American diet. A lot of processed food, lots of animal products from meat to dairy to eggs. To produce an animal for food, you have to give it an abundance of food and water and resources to make it grow to become the food product it is. It takes a lot more resources to create a pound of flesh versus a pound of vegetables. So the point is, fruits and vegetables can be grown a lot more efficiently in this world. And with the resources, they can feed a lot more people. In the United States, the meat industry is heavily subsidized with our tax dollars, so it makes the cost of meat at the grocery store inexpensive. In reality, these things cost a lot more of the environment, but when you go to the grocery store, you can buy, a pound of meat for the same price as a bell pepper. And that's the that's the main reason so many people buy meat and eat more meat, because $1 will feed you a lot more. That's all a product of the way our government has set up things, not a product of reality. In reality, if we were, a nation that subsidized growing organic fruits and vegetables, they would cost way less and be a lot more affordable in comparison to the meat, which would cost a lot more if it wasn't subsidized. So what we see in terms of prices at the grocery store, that is because of the direct involvement of our government in manipulating things in that way, if you're following what I'm saying. So we could change these things about our society. If sane people took over the government and it was about creating, a healthy food supply, if you realize that food is your medicine, and it is, there's all the reason in the world to subsidize organic fruits and vegetables and make sure everybody has local quality produce throughout the year. That would do such tremendous things for our society. And it's such a simple switch if we're willing. It's hard for a lot of us because we're addicted to the toxic foods, but anyone can find out. If you stick to a vegan, vegetarian diet for about 2 weeks, you can become adjusted to it in that time. You can see the health benefits, and you'll want to stick with it. Many people have found that, including myself. And I've been promoting this diet since I was 18 years old. I have a few converts in my day, including my brother-in-law, who used to make fun of me, who's an actual doctor. 15 years ago, he used to make fun of me for being a vegetarian vegan. Now, at this day and age, he is, because he saw the health benefits. He's over 20 years older than me. So there's you, benefiting there's benefiting the environment, helping create a better world. And then the third thing is, you're not having to slaughter animals. I mean, imagine if you could see all billion plus of the animals being murdered each year just for food. And then you find out that their food, it might satisfy our mouth, but for our body, it's not even as good as, eating these things. And one last point, I want to talk about the gematria of vegetable. Let's begin with the word food. The word food sums to 22, which in numerology is the master builder number, said to be the most powerful number in all of numerology. And think about what food is to we people. We are what we eat. The better we eat, the healthier we are, the longer we live, the better our minds work. Food, master builder number, 22. The word vegetable has gematria of 79, and 79 is the 22nd prime number. And truly, it seems that vegetables are the master food for our health and well-being. And again, this knowledge, this old world knowledge, gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words, it's thousands of years old. And my guess is humanity has known for a very long time the benefits of eating vegetables as opposed to meat and animal proteins. And the other thing that's very real about the meat and animal proteins that people are eating, we live in an age of profit over people. So what that means is food, it's being injected with hormones and steroids so that the meat gets bigger, faster, quicker, come into market to make even more profit. Feeding the animals less, having them grow faster in a shorter period of time so that they can get this meat out the door and make more money off it. Produce more milk, make more money off the milk. This is going on all throughout the nation, all throughout mega food corporations. That's why so many countries don't allow food from the U.S., because we use these type of steroids, hormones, which in turn, when people eat them, guess what? These hormones and steroids are going into children and other people that are supposed to cause stimulated growth, record growth. And look at what we see. Over time, we see children hitting puberty younger and younger and younger. We see all these new health problems in children. This is from the experimentation in what's being used to feed these animals and livestock, which is then consumed by the people. So the steroids and hormones that are in the animal, they go into the people eating it. It's undeniable. I have 4 nephews, niece. I have 3 nephews and 1 niece. It's amazing. Both of their parents are shorter than me. The oldest in that family he's about to turn 16 in February. He's already about 2 inches taller than me, which means he's taller than both of his parents. And what's amazing is his younger siblings, it's obvious they're all going to be taller than the parents, and it looks like they're all going to be taller than me. And there's no height in his family. There's no height in my sister's family. It's what's in the food. People are getting bigger, faster. It's amazing. And what else is amazing is even just the gematria, how this is all thought out. Remember, numerology, gematria, thousands of years old. Human nutrition. How could human nutrition not have been a focus of the past? I mean, how long has society known we are what we eat? Think about it. Structures that exist in this world like the pyramids, which we say we can't even understand how they built them today. We got to remember the people of the past, they might very well have been smarter than us. They might have been more advanced than us in a lot of ways. Here's this note about carnivores and omnivores. A carnivore's or omnivore's small intestine is 3 to 6 times the length of its trunk. This is a tool designed for rapid elimination of food that rots quickly. Man's, as well as other herbivores' small intestines are 10 to 12 times the length of their body and winds itself back and forth in random directions. A lot of carnivores just have a straight intestine, like a perfect tube. Our intestines are so long, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Just like other vegetable eaters. So we will watch this, then we'll take a break, and if you want to watch the gruesome part of the video, if you eat meat and you just want to pick it up at the grocery store, I think you should really think about what you're eating. If it's still all right with you, then, more power to you. But for everyone who doesn't want to think about this but wants to eat meat, what's that really? So let's watch this and then we'll be back.
The average American now carries 23 extra pounds.
59 grams of fat. You could actually save 12 grams of the fat and half the calories if you simply ate an entire stick of butter.
We're talking about diabetes and hypertension and bone diseases, osteoporosis.
Doctors say we really need to eat less red and processed meat.
We have unprecedented amount of type 2 diabetes in our children, and we're starting to see hypertension in our children in grammar school.
Clearly, the Western diet is taking a toll. This should serve as a wake-up call. We have a growing problem, and the ones who are growing are us.
Food. It's central to our lives and traditions. Every special occasion seems to involve food and feasting. But could some of these same foods, including several that we think are good for our health, also be causing many of our most serious health problems? Indeed, we're facing a massive health crisis. No less than 40% of Americans today are obese, and about half of us are taking some form of prescription drug.
1 in 5 American 4-year-olds are now considered to be obese.
Though Mexican-American and African-American children are still more likely to be overweight.
This could be the first generation of children in the United States that lives less than its parents.
But could there be a single solution to all of these problems? A solution so comprehensive, yet so straightforward, that it's mind-boggling that more of us haven't taken it seriously?
Someone has to stand up and say that the answer isn't another pill. The answer is spinach.
A growing number of researchers claim that if we eliminate or greatly reduce refined, processed, and animal-based foods, we can prevent, and in certain cases even reverse, several of our worst diseases.
They say all we need to do is adopt a whole foods, plant-based diet. It sounds almost too simple to be true. The idea of using nutrition to promote good health is nothing new. Indeed, Hippocrates, the ancient Greek father of Western medicine, said, "Let food be thy medicine," over 2,000 years ago. During Campbell and Esselstyn's lifetimes, the American diet has changed dramatically. Near the beginning of the 20th century, Americans each ate about 120 pounds of meat annually. By 2007, that figure had exploded to no less than 222 pounds. In 1913, we ate about 40 pounds of processed sugar each per year. However, by 1999, our consumption of all refined sweeteners had risen to over 147 pounds. In 1909, Americans consumed around 294 pounds of dairy products apiece. But by 2006, our yearly intake of dairy had more than doubled to 605 pounds. Protein was also nearly synonymous with animal-based foods like meat. It still is today, all over America.
Why do you think meat is important in our diet?
Protein.
Protein. Protein.
A lot of protein.
We need protein, don't we? We can't live without protein.
The idea that plants had protein also didn't come into play until maybe the late 1800s, early 1900s, and then it struggled through the years.
During the 1960s, heart disease was on the rise in the U.S.
What doctors commonly call coronary artery disease is usually caused by a condition of the arteries that supply the heart with blood.
What happens is that over time, a fatty substance in the bloodstream called cholesterol builds up in the coronary arteries, restricting the blood flow to the heart. This can ultimately cause several problems, from severe chest pain called angina to heart attacks. Cholesterol is a natural substance produced by all animals, including humans, and it's an essential component of our cells' walls. But when we consume dietary cholesterol, which is only found in animal foods like meat, eggs, and dairy products, it tends to stay in the bloodstream. This so-called plaque is what collects on the inside of our blood vessels and is the major cause of coronary artery disease. So Dr. Esselstyn started investigating the global statistics on breast cancer. One of the facts he discovered was that the incidence of breast cancer in Kenya was far lower than it was in the United States.
In fact, in 1978, the chances of a woman getting breast cancer in Kenya were 82 times lower than in the U.S.
Dr. Esselstyn was even more surprised by the numbers he discovered for some other types of cancer.
In the entire nation of Japan in 1958, how many autopsy-proven deaths were there from cancer of the prostate? 18. 18 in the entire nation. That, to me, was about the most mind-boggling public health figure that I think I'd ever encountered.
In the same year, the U.S. population was only about twice the size of Japan's, yet the number of prostate cancer deaths exceeded 14,000. Dr. Esselstyn also discovered that in the early 1970s, the risk for heart disease in rural China was 12 times lower than it was in the U.S. And in the highlands of Papua New Guinea, heart disease was rarely encountered. The link he noted between all the areas he studied was simple.
Virtually, the Western diet was non-existent. They had no animal products. They had no dairy, no meat.
Even more compelling to Esselstyn was some historical data that had long been overlooked. In World War II, the Germans occupied Norway. Among the first things they did was confiscate all the livestock and farm animals to provide supplies for their own troops. So the Norwegians were forced to eat mainly plant-based foods.
Now we look at the deaths in Norway, just antecedent to this period, from heart attack and stroke. 1927, 1930, 35, look right up here, right at the very top, 1939. Bingo! In come the Germans. Immediately, 1940, wow, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. Have we ever seen a population have their cardiovascular disease plummet like this from statins, from bypass surgery?
Just like the Indian researchers, Campbell fed half the rats in his study a diet of 20% casein, the main protein and dairy products. The other half was fed only 5% casein. Over the 12 weeks of the study, the rats eating the higher protein diet had a greatly enhanced level of early liver cancer tumor growth. On the other hand, all of the rats eating only 5% protein had no evidence of cancer whatsoever. But Dr. Campbell decided to take these findings a step further. This time, instead of keeping his test rats on the same diet throughout the study, he kept them in one group and switched their diets back and forth between 5 and 20% dairy protein, doing so at 3-week intervals. The results were astonishing. Whenever the rats were fed 20% protein, early liver tumor growth exploded. But when the same rats were given 5% protein, tumor growth actually went down.
Even more surprisingly, Dr. Campbell discovered that a 20% diet of plant proteins from soybeans and wheat did not promote cancer.
Over the next several years, Dr. Campbell initiated more extensive lab studies using various animal and plant nutrients. The results were consistent. Nutrients from animal foods promoted cancer growth, while nutrients from plant foods decreased cancer growth. 500 calories of natural plant food fills the stomach completely, triggering both our stretch and density receptors to signal our brain that we've had enough to eat. But 500 calories of unnaturally rich or processed food fills the stomach far less, deceiving these receptors into telling our brain that we need to eat more. Even worse is 500 calories of oil, which is almost pure fat and barely triggers any response at all. But why do these concentrated foods that are so harmful to us give us so much pleasure?
Dr. Lyle says the answer is related to a system called the motivational triad.
This is a trio of biological mechanisms that nature has designed into every creature on Earth so they can survive to pass their genes on to the next generation. The first leg of the motivational triad is pleasure-seeking.
And primarily two things are the cause of that, and those two things are food and sex. So in the case of a great white shark, it's basically got a neon sign flashing across its forehead saying food, sex, food, sex, food, sex. Unless it's a male, then it says sex, food, but it's pretty much the same thing.
If it walked, hopped, swam, crawled, slithered, had eyes, a mama and a dad, don't eat it.
Dr. Campbell and his associates carefully chose 65 counties scattered across China. These counties were mainly located in rural or semi-rural areas. 1990. Following nearly a decade of intense effort, Dr. Campbell and his colleagues finally published their China study. It identified no less than 94,000 correlations between diet and disease.
I think the major message we got out of all these correlation analysis is only one message. The plant food-based diet, mainly cereal grains, vegetables, and fruits, and very little animal food, is always associated with lower mortality of certain cancers, stroke, and coronary heart disease.
I was active, healthy, very busy, mid-40s, absolutely no risk factors at all for any heart problem.
But Dr. Crow, even with what was considered to be a healthy cholesterol level, was actually ravaged by heart disease.
This angiogram, taken after his first nearly fatal heart attack in 1996, shows how badly damaged one of his coronary arteries was. This angiogram was done after less than 3 years of entirely dietary treatment.
Talking to your doctor about ED may be the last thing you want to do, but it's definitely a conversation worth having.
I'm a practicing urologist and have been so for the last 25 years. And erectile dysfunction is actually the first clinical indicator of generalized cardiovascular disease. It's the canary in the coal mine. It's the thing that lets you know that you have some significant endothelial and vascular disease much earlier than will a heart attack.
Despite the apparent success of the dietary approach, some critics say eating this way is extreme.
Now, With a Western diet, this guarantees there are going to be, what, 500,000 people in this country this year.
All right, so now to finish this up, if you enjoy, a day out on the grill, cooking up the steaks, whatever, you should know where those steaks came from. And if you're going to eat meat, what you should really do is, save up, get that local, farm-raised, free-range, and eat that. Because then you're putting something more nutritious in your body. And you know what? If it costs more, think about it this way. Make meat less of your diet and make it more of a special thing. You should be paying more for that meat anyway. You get the local product that's not all full of the hormones and steroids, an animal that got to walk around instead of live in a cage its whole life. You're getting what you pay for. All this money you try to save now by eating poorly, that's going to catch up with you. That's going to be years off your life. That's going to be big medical bills at the end of your life to stay alive. Why not be preventative and enjoy quality of life, instead of dealing with the consequences later? You can't really sweep these problems under the rug. So that said, we're going to now watch the factory farm process of how it gets here. And real quick, I just want to make a point. A lot of people say, Zach, what kind of food do you eat? Most of the foods I eat are really simple and have been. And I've eaten a lot of the same foods the whole time since I became awake to the benefits of eating a plant-based diet, which happened when I was 18, right after September 11th. I started looking for answers in this world, and one of the first things I found was the benefits of eating a vegetarian diet. I found out we'd been lied to on nutrition. Eating these diets rich in animal protein caused disease and illness, loss of energy, depression, impacted cognitive function. So, I'm so grateful that I found this knowledge. And, look, for any of you losing your hair already, the way to stop it now is to change your diet. When I was 18, when I was 19, all my friends used to make fun of me for eating this way, They called me all sorts of names. But you know what? Almost all my friends, they already are losing their hair or have already lost their hair. And I know it's because they're eating this food all full of these hormones and toxins and stuff I was telling them about way back when. Almost all of my friends are already balding. And I'm 33. I'm younger than most of my friends. I was the young one in the grade level growing up always. So they're all about 34 now. But they've been losing their hair for the last 5 years. And I just wish they'd listen to me, So anyway, when you become a vegan, it also makes, if you're smart about your purchases, it makes life simple. I've always bought the organic tubs of spinach, and they've always stayed around $5 for more than a decade now. One of those tubs of spinach, it's 4 meals in itself. You could just eat 4 big salads, raw spinach salads, throw some tomatoes, some nuts on it, throw a raspberry vinaigrette, or whatever kind of dressing. It's better not to use a dairy dressing like ranch, It's better to use like a vinaigrette. Sorry, I got distracted with the phone call. But yeah, use dressings that are low in fat, no cholesterol. If you're not aware of cholesterol only comes from animal products. So if there's cholesterol in a food, that means there's animal products in it. However, if there's just egg whites in a food, that's technically an animal product, but there's no cholesterol in egg whites, in case you weren't aware of that. Most Americans have very high cholesterol because they eat too much animal protein. And what does cholesterol do? It creates plaque in your arteries. It's what causes heart attacks. And what's amazing is eating fruits and vegetables, it just cleans all that plaque right out. Fruits and vegetables, nature's medicine. It's how to offset all the illness and disease. But anyway, this is the point I want to make. Since I was 18, I've just been eating things like this. Raw spinach, nuts in there. I'll throw almonds in there, walnuts in there. Get some dried fruits and vegetables, throw it in there, and I'll just eat it dry like a bag of potato chips. Wherever I've worked over the years, like whenever there's lunch break, I'll pull out a little tub with some raw spinach and some nuts in it, some dried berries, and I'll just eat it like it's potato chips, and people will be like, what are you doing? And then they'll say, why don't you use a fork? And I say, well, what's the difference? It's just like, eating potato chips, you know? It's just like eating potato chips. You don't use a fork to reach into your bag and grab your potato chips. And, you know, you grab some spinach and some nuts. You know, I got some spinach and walnuts in here. Get a walnut on the outside so you can see, you know? And, you know, normally I'll take a smaller bite. But here, I can even do the big bite. So anyway, let me take this bite of spinach and walnuts. To me, this is my potato chips. And for a long time, Truth Seeker, I didn't eat any junk food in my diet. I just cut it all out. No more chips, no more candy bars, no more cake, no more brownies. I just got rid of all of it. I didn't eat any of that stuff for over a decade. Then I got a girlfriend along the way who got me back into the sweets and junk food. And it's funny, as an older man, it's harder to give up some of those things. They're just so tempting. But anyway, you eat more fruits and vegetables. You can afford a little snack and cheating every now and then. You know, this stuff cleans out the toxins. So enjoy, Truth Seeker. This is going to be the grossest part of the video, so maybe eat a delicious snack first to offset it, like spinach and walnuts. Mmm. Mmm. Take smaller bites, Truth Seeker. Big bites, you know, too long to chew. But I had to dress it up for the camera. Yeah. You know, you find the motivation to eat better. All of a sudden, these plants that you don't like eating now, they're going to taste a whole lot better. Before I read about the importance of eating a plant-based diet, you know, I was just like you. I like meat, cheese, yogurt, ice cream. But then I read about all of it, and in my mind, I just said, okay, it's not all about the taste buds. It's not all about, you know, just satisfying what the mouth wants. It's about what is smartest for this body and my life. And you got to think about that. That's the way this world works. Oftentimes, the thing that's most tempting, you know, the thing you want the most, it's really not what's best for you. The interesting part about this world. And meat, dairy, it's definitely one of those things. So instead of rambling on, Truth Seeker, I think we covered most of the bases. This is the part I think you should all stay tuned for, but if you don't want to, the time is now to sign off. Until next time, Truth Seeker.
In the next few minutes, you will be given an eye-opening look behind the closed doors of modern farms, hatcheries, and slaughter plants, revealing the journey that animals make from farm to fridge. For nearly their entire 4-month pregnancies, mother sows are locked in narrow metal stalls barely larger than their own bodies. Many of the animals develop open sores and scratches. Workers often kick, hit, and yell at pigs to move them. Soon after birth, piglets are castrated by workers who cut into their skin and rip out their testicles. Next, the workers chop off their tails. Both of these painful procedures are nearly always done without anesthesia. Many animals die from botched mutilations. Piglets who become sick or injured or who are not growing quickly enough are killed. Common killing methods include throwing animals into bins and painfully gassing them with carbon dioxide. Others are killed by being slammed headfirst into the ground. At a factory farm in Ohio, workers killed injured sows by hanging them on a forklift to be slowly strangled to death, a practice defended by the pork industry. Pigs raised for meat typically live only 5 to 6 months, a mere fraction of their natural lifespan, in overcrowded pens like this. Workers frequently tattoo the animals with ID numbers by hitting them with metal-spiked mallets. Once pigs have reached market weight, they are sent to slaughter. At the slaughterhouse, pigs are knocked in the head with a steel rod, hung upside down, and have their throats slit. Improper stunning condemns many pigs to having their throats slit while they are fully conscious and suffering. Others are even scalded alive in the hair removal tanks. From the moment they hatch, the egg industry subjects chicks to horrors few of us can even imagine. At the hatchery, workers quickly and roughly sort the males from the females. Because male chicks don't lay eggs and do not grow quickly enough to be raised profitably for meat, they are killed within hours after hatching. Male chicks are typically thrown into giant grinding machines while still alive. This practice is deemed standard and acceptable by the egg industry. Another killing method is to drop male chicks into trash bags to be smothered or suffocated. More than 200 million unwanted male chicks are killed on their first day of life each year in the United States. The females have it even worse, destined for a life of prolonged cruelty. To reduce pecking induced by overcrowded living conditions, workers use a hot blade or laser to remove part of the chick's beaks. This mutilation can cause both acute and chronic pain. After debeaking, the birds are moved to cages where they will spend the rest of their lives. Nearly 95% of egg-laying hens spend their lives confined in tiny wire cages like this. Most birds never see sunlight or breathe fresh air. They are packed so tightly they cannot even spread their wings, walk, or turn around without pushing other birds aside. The harsh and unrelenting environment of the cage takes its toll, often leading to severe feather loss, open wounds, and birds trapped in cage wire. For many hens, the stressful confinement is too much, leading to premature death. Undercover investigations at egg farms from coast to coast have revealed a culture of cruelty and neglect, including workers stomping on birds, throwing live hens on dead piles and in trash cans, and painfully mangling bird spines in botched attempts to break their necks. At 1 or 2 years of age, when a hen's egg production begins to decline, she is violently ripped from her cage. Workers often fling the birds into metal carts where they are painfully suffocated with carbon dioxide. Crowded by the thousands into filthy sheds, chickens and turkeys are denied many of their most basic natural behaviors and needs, such as fresh air and exercise. Through genetic selection, chickens and turkeys raised for meat have been bred to grow so large so quickly that many suffer crippling leg disorders, chronic joint pain, and even fatal heart attacks. Sick or injured birds often have their necks broken. Others are clubbed to death. Those who live to reach market weight are thrown into transport crates and loaded onto trucks bound for slaughter plants. Handling is often violent and frequently causes bruises, broken bones, and other injuries. At the slaughter plant, the birds are dumped from their crates, then roughly snapped upside down into moving shackles by their fragile legs. From there, the birds are dragged through an electrified vat of water which renders them paralyzed, but not necessarily unconscious. They are then pulled across a blade which slices their throats, causing blood to pour from their necks. Some of the birds who miss the blade have their throats slit or their heads ripped off by a backup killer. Other birds are drowned and scalded in the tanks of hot water designed to loosen the bird's feathers. Cows produce milk for the same reasons that humans do, to nourish their young. But calves on dairy farms are dragged away from their mothers and violently killed, all so that humans can have the milk instead. The majority of today's dairy cows are confined on factory farms. Some spend almost their entire lives standing on concrete floors. Others are crammed into massive mud lots. Workers subject young cows to painful mutilations and amputations. Here, a worker cuts off a cow's tail, slicing through her sensitive skin, nerves, and bone without any painkillers. Another routine practice is dehorning, burning into the calves' skulls to remove their budding horns. Painkillers are rarely used. A 2010 undercover investigation at a dairy farm in Ohio revealed a farm worker stabbing cows with pitchforks, beating them in the head with crowbars, and punching baby calves. Injuries and illness often run rampant in filthy, disease-ridden factory farm environments. Cows too sick or injured to stand are called downers and are often left to slowly suffer and die from their injuries. At a fraction of their natural lifespan, the so-called spent dairy cows are prodded onto transport trucks and shipped to slaughterhouses. An undercover investigation at a slaughterhouse in California revealed downed dairy cows being kicked, shocked, pushed with forklifts, and water hosed in the mouth and nostrils in an effort to get them to the kill floor. Most cattle raised for beef endure several mutilations without painkillers, including castration and hot iron branding. Most spend the last few months of their lives in overcrowded feedlots, standing in their own waste. Unreliable stunning practices at the slaughterhouse condemn many cattle to having their throats cut and their limbs hacked off while still alive and conscious. Undercover investigations at kosher slaughterhouses in the United States have documented the routine practice of cutting open the throats of fully aware and alert cattle. Fish and other sea animals are sensitive, intelligent creatures who have a demonstrated capacity to suffer pain. Massive trawling nets indiscriminately drag hundreds of tons of fish and other animals along the ocean floor. As they are dragged up from the ocean depths, the fish undergo excruciatingly painful decompression. The extreme changes in pressure can rupture their swim bladders and pop out their eyes. They are then tossed on board where the surviving fish either suffocate or are crushed to death. Others are still alive when they are hacked apart on these floating slaughterhouses. Untold millions of dolphins, turtles, and other non-target aquatic animals are also killed by ocean trawler nets each year. Today, approximately 1 in 5 fish consumed worldwide is raised in captivity. Like factory-farmed animals on land, farm-raised fish are crowded by the tens of thousands in small, disease- and excrement-ridden areas for their entire lives. When fish reach market weight, they are loaded onto tanker trucks and shipped to slaughter, where common killing methods include slow suffocation, farmed animals are every bit as intelligent, curious, and capable of feeling pain and suffering as the dogs and cats so many of us know and love. If you are at all moved by this film, please do your part. Make a commitment today to explore a vegan diet. It could be one of the best decisions of your life. By withdrawing our support of this cruel and violent system, we can put our ethics on the table and make a statement for a kinder and more compassionate society for all animals. For delicious vegan recipes, nutritional information, and tips on making the transition to a plant-based diet, please visit chooseveg.com.